The cafe smelled of rain and burnt coffee. Ryan adjusted his daughter Lily's pink jacket, trying to keep her warm while waiting for their order. It was one of those days when everything seemed to go wrong. He had lost another job interview, his car wouldn't start, and now his 5-year-old daughter was hungry. He reached into his pocket, a few crumpled bills, barely enough for one sandwich. He smiled anyway. "Half for you, half for me, deal?" he said softly. Lily nodded with her little grin. "You can have the bigger half, Daddy." Across the cafe, a woman in a tailored black suit watched them quietly. Her name was Amelia Cross, CEO of a billion-dollar tech firm, known in business circles for her brilliance and her coldness. She was here for a quick coffee before a meeting, but something about that man and his daughter wouldn't let her look away. When the waiter brought the food, Ryan cut the sandwich carefully and pushed the bigger piece toward Lily. She hesitated, noticing how he hadn't ordered anything else for himself. "It's okay, Daddy," she whispered, her voice small and trembling. "We can leave." Something in Amelia's chest cracked open. She didn't know why, but those words hit her harder than any headline or business loss ever had. She stood up, walked to their table and said gently, "Excuse me, you forgot your order." Ryan blinked, confused. "I think you've mistaken us for someone else." Amelia smiled slightly. "Maybe, but I ordered too much. Would you both help me not waste it?" It wasn't true, of course. She hadn't ordered anything yet. But it gave him a reason to say yes without feeling pitied. Soon the table was filled with sandwiches, soup, and a small cup of hot chocolate for Lily. The girl's eyes lit up like Christmas. As they ate, Amelia asked questions about Lily's favorite color, about Ryan's job as a mechanic, about the little sketchbook he carried. She learned that he'd been laid off when his garage closed, and that most of his time was spent trying to give Lily the childhood he never had. For the first time in years, Amelia found herself listening, not to numbers or reports, but to real people. When they left the cafe, rain had turned into a drizzle. Amelia offered them a ride. Ryan declined politely, but she insisted. On the drive, Lily dozed off in the back seat, clutching a paper napkin on which Amelia had drawn a smiley face. "Can I ask you something?" Amelia said, "Sure. Why didn't you just ask for help?" Ryan looked out the window. "Because it's my job to fix things, not to ask others to fix me." There was silence, the kind that feels heavier than words. When they reached the old apartment complex where Ryan lived, Amelia glanced at the cracked walls, the flickering hallway lights. Something stirred in her again, not pity, but recognition. She remembered her own father, a factory worker who died when she was 12, leaving her mother to raise her alone. She'd built an empire to never feel that helpless again, and in the process she'd built walls too high for anyone to climb. The next morning, Ryan woke to a knock on the door. Outside stood a delivery man holding a small white envelope. Inside was a note. "You once said it's your job to fix things. Maybe it's mine to make sure you have the tools. A." Along with it was a letter of offer, a job at Amelia's company, leading a small community repair initiative she had just launched overnight. Weeks turned into months. Ryan's team fixed broken bikes, repaired appliances for low-income families, and taught kids how to use tools. Lily became the office's sunshine, everyone's little helper, and Amelia changed. She started visiting the repair center every weekend, trading her designer heels for sneakers, sharing lunch with volunteers, and laughing, genuinely laughing, for the first time in years. One afternoon, as Ryan adjusted a child's wheelchair, Amelia watched quietly. Lily ran up and tugged her sleeve. "Miss Amelia," she said, "Daddy says you're a superhero who saves people's days." Amelia smiled, eyes glistening. "No, sweetheart. I just met someone who reminded me how." Months later, at the center's opening ceremony, Amelia looked out at the crowd, families, workers, and children, and found Ryan smiling back. When she took the mic, her voice trembled. Success isn't about how much we own, she said. It's about how much of ourselves we're willing to give. Lily clapped first, proudly holding her father's hand. Ryan looked down at her, whispering, "See, told you kindness always comes back." And Amelia, the woman once defined by power, realized she'd found something greater: purpose. A few days after the ceremony, life at the community center found its rhythm. Ryan was busier than ever, but it wasn't the kind of busy that wore him down. It was the kind that made him feel alive. Every screw he tightened, every toy he fixed, and every person he helped seemed to repair something inside him too. Amelia often dropped by unannounced. Sometimes she brought tools, sometimes just coffee, but mostly she brought herself. No longer the untouchable CEO, but a woman learning how to connect again. One evening, as the sun melted behind the skyline, she found Ryan sitting on the porch steps, hands covered in grease, Lily drawing beside him with chalk. "You work too hard," Amelia said, handing him a cup. He smiled, tired but content. "You pay me to fix things. Can't let you down now." She chuckled softly. "You already did the impossible, Ryan. You fixed me." For a long moment neither spoke. The air was quiet, except for the laughter of children in the distance. Then Ryan said, "Funny thing about fixing people. Sometimes you don't even know they're broken until they start healing." Amelia looked at him, realizing that every wall she had built over the years had already begun to crumble the day she heard that little girl whisper, "It's okay, Daddy. We can leave." Those words had shaken something loose, something she thought she'd buried forever. Lily ran up to her, chalk dust on her fingers. "Miss Amelia, can you draw with me?" Amelia sat down beside her without hesitation, drawing a heart on the concrete. Lily giggled and drew a second one. "That one's for Daddy," she said. Amelia added a third, smaller one between them. "And that one's for everyone who needs to feel loved," she whispered. As the night grew cooler, the three of them stayed there. No grand plans, no talk of success, just laughter, warmth, and a quiet peace that felt like home. Weeks later, Amelia announced something that stunned the city. Her company would fund hundreds of similar repair centers across the country, offering jobs and free training for struggling parents. When asked why, she simply said, "Because someone once reminded me that compassion is the best investment there is." Ryan watched the news from the workshop, pride shining in his eyes. He turned to Lily and said softly, "That's what happens when people choose kindness." Lily nodded thoughtfully, then smiled. "So kindness is like magic." He smiled back. "No, sweetheart. It's better because it's real." The camera of life panned out slowly. A single dad, his little girl, and the billionaire who rediscovered her heart, all proof that a simple act of humanity can change everything. Sometimes the smallest moments are the ones that rewrite destinies. Sometimes it starts with just a whisper, "It's okay, Daddy, we can leave."